Hello everyone, welcome back to the class. Today we are learning about this living world, which is 11th class chapter, 11th standard. Now let us discuss what is living world. Whenever we come to know that, we will discuss about the living organisms, their functions and all. Then what is the meaning of this living world? The world which composed of the living beings, right? This is called the living world. Then what all the living beings perform, what are all the features and what are all the characteristics, and what are all the processes they will perform, life processes they perform. They perform the respiration, digestion, excretion, right? Whenever we come to know, we will to know about the living beings, we will say the organism which is having all these characters will be said to be a living. There are other characters which lead to the growth of an organism, reproduction, see the metabolism. These are all the characteristic features are there which will define a living organism. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about all of them, all of that characters, like the characters like the characters like the growth, reproduction, we are going to discuss about metabolism, we are going to discuss about response to stimuli, and we will discuss about cellular organization. Here we are going to have some standards like what are all the defining characters, and we are going to discuss about the non-defining. By discussing all these characters in brief, we will come to know what are all the defining characters of the living organism and what are all the non-defining characters of the living organism. First, we'll talk about the growth. What is meant by growth? Right, growth, it is nothing but increase in the mass. What is meant by the mass? The particles, right? Muscle, all of that, right? Soil particles will also be considered. Increase in the mass or increase in the number of cells will be called as the growth. Okay, then whether all the living organisms will exhibit growth? Yes. Then what about the non-living? When we generally ask this, people will say no, but functionally they are also growing, they also shows growth, but that growth will be different to the growth of an organism. Let us understand that properly. See, growth is increase in mass or increase in cell number, right? Number of cells. Increase in number of cells. Then when we take an example of the living beings like humans, infant, our cycle starts from the infant, then the child, then adolescent, then an adult. See here, infant will be 0 to 2 years, right? When we, like humans, When we accumulate the mass, when our number of cells increases, we will show a random change in our physic and in mental organization, and we will be transformed to be as a child. Then here shows the growth, because increase in the mass and increase in number of cells, it is a growth, and we call the organism as the child in this stage. Then same thing to the adolescent, child to adolescent, then to the adult. Here we are showing increase in number of cells and increase in mass also. That says that we will exhibit growth. What type of growth and all we will discuss now. Now, when we take an example of the non-living things, whether they exhibit growth, whether they shows increase in mass, let us see whether they will show or not. If we talk about the mountains or here, year by year, they start accumulating the mass, the particles upon it, and by the definition, increase in the mass, it has increased the mass. This says that the mountains or non-living beings, things also exhibits the growth. Then if we go for a growth as the defining character, then it also exhibits by the non-living. Then it is not a defining character of non-living beings. Then growth will be considered as a non-defining character. It's a non-defining character. Then let us talk about the reproduction. Right? Now we will talk about the reproduction. See here, what is meant by the reproduction? Production of offsprings by the parents, right? Production of offsprings. Production of offsprings by parents. What do you call this? Whether the reproduction is a defining character or a non-defining character? Let us understand by the explanations, right? Now, production of offsprings by the parents. Reproduction. Only living beings will undergo reproduction, you know that, right? Replication by the single cellular organisms also reproduce, multicellular also reproduce, but the processes are different. But they produce the offsprings. They replicate their same copy of offsprings. Then what about the in multicellular? What about the reproduction, or what about the process of reproduction in honeybees? Honeybees are of types like queen bees there, right? The drone is there. Then the worker bee is there. Worker bee. Queen bee is a female, you know that. Drone is a male, and worker is a female. Now, in the honeybees, only the queen bee will produce the young ones by laying the eggs and all. What about the working bee? They are sterile. they can't produce the babies, right? They can't produce the babies. But working bee is living or non-living? It's a living. It's a living. It's a living being, right? Right? Then can you say that it's a reproduction is a defining character? Is defining? No. It's a non-defining character, because being a living being, they are not able to show this character, production of offspring's character. Then it's a non-defining. Then another example of this reproduction is, we'll take an example of the mule, which is produced by the donkey and horse. Mule is sterile. That is nothing but it won't undergo reproduction, right? Mules doesn't undergo reproduction. They can't produce the babies because they are sterile. They are formed by the combination of two different species, the donkey species and the horse species, right? Then they are sterile organisms. They can't produce the babies, sterile organisms. Whether mule is a living or non-living, mule is living. Then we can say that reproduction is a non-defining character. Reproduction is a, reproduction is a non-defining character. Let us talk about the metabolism. Let's talk about the metabolism. So we'll talk about the metabolism here. What is meant by metabolism? What is meant by metabolism? All the chemical reactions which are happening in a living cell, in a cell of living being, they are called the metabolisms. They are chemical reactions. Metabolism, all the chemical reactions, all the chemical reactions are considered to be, comes under metabolism. Metabolism is of two types: catabolism, anabolism, right? Now these metabolic reactions, can we do it in a laboratory? Yes, we can do that. Yes, chemical reactions can be done in lab, but that should not be called as metabolism. That is not considered as metabolism. What is metabolism? The chemical reactions which takes place in living cell, that only the metabolism. Then we can say that metabolism is a defining character. That means no non-living being will undergo metabolism. Metabolism is a defining character of living beings. And we can enter here in our first page. Yes, the first defining character of the living is the metabolism. And then we will talk about the response to stimuli, the next characteristic feature. Next is response to stimuli. Response to stimuli. What is meant by this? Response to stimuli. It is, let us understand the stimuli. What is meant by stimuli? Stimuli is an external agent, or stimulus is an external agent which brings change in an organism, right? Which brings change in an organism. Let us see what are all the stimuli. The stimuli are the external agents like sunlight, wind, rain. They're all the external or environmental stimuli which brings change in an organism. They bring change in an organism. How? Let us see. When we go outside in a heavy sunlight, we will show that we usually wants to protect from the sunlight. We'll keep our hand in front of the eyes, right? This means it has brought change in ours, brought change in organism. The stimuli has brought a change in an organism. Then what is meant by the response? What is meant by the response? Reaction to the stimuli. Reaction to stimuli. What was the reaction? Keeping the hand in front of the eyes, right? Using the umbrella to protect ourselves from the rain. Like, these are all the responses. Then whether the response to stimuli will be considered as a defining character or a non-defining character. It's a defining character. It's a defining character. It's a defining character of living beings. Then in case of coma patients, they don't show any kind of response to the stimuli, right? Where if you have seen that a coma patient in the hospital, when you pinched him or her, they can't react to you. That means they are not responding to the stimuli. Yes, to the external stimuli they are not reacting, but they are reacting to the medicines. Means slowly their condition is getting improved by the medications, right, given by the doctors. Slowly they shows the response toward the stimuli. For them, stimuli will be the medicine. Response will be change in their condition. Change in their condition. They will show improvements in their condition. Then defining, then we will say that response to stimuli is particularly a defining character. Yes, obviously it is a defining character. Response to stimuli. Then the last character we are going to discuss is cellular organization. Cellular organization. Cellular organization is nothing but the organisms which are made up of cells. Yes, the living beings are made up of cells, made up of tissues, they are made up of organs, they are made up of organ systems, right? Non-living No non-living being shows these characters like the cells, tissues, organs, organ systems. Then cellular organization is only exhibited by the living organisms. Then we can say that cellular organization is a defining character of a living organism. See, when we come to the conclusion, we'll have a definition of living being. The organism or a, or a living being, sorry, an organism is said to be living, said to be a living organism when it exhibits metabolism, response to stimuli, and it is made up of cellular organization. Then the definition of a living organism is the organism which exhibits metabolism, response to stimuli, and cellular organism will be considered as a living organism. By this, we people have understood about the basic differences between the living and the non-living, and finally we came to know the definition of living being by understanding all the characters in deep, like growth, reproduction, metabolism, response, and cellular organization. Now we have understood all this, and thanks for watching the video. Thanks for liking the video. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you one and all.